but we are here today to gather information, and I know that there is great interest here. I'm Attorney General Eric Schneiderman, and we've come together to discuss an important part of my office's work in the area of not-for-profits. The Attorney General's Office of New York State is directed by the state's laws to regulate nonprofits, and we are concerned about preserving the public's trust in nonprofits, protecting New York donors, and not incidentally defending the democratic process. The issue we're here to discuss today is very important, and your presence here today reflects a commitment to those goals, so I'm grateful for your attendance. In December, I proposed new regulations to require the disclosure of expenditures and donor information by nonprofits that are active in elections. I'm enacting the proposed regulations under the authority granted to me by Article 7A of the Executive Law and Article 8 of the State's Powers and Trust Law. The regulations are simply a modification of our existing regulations in this area and are designed to provide transparency and to ensure the integrity of our election process. Last November, we got a glimpse of what can happen when nonprofits that conceal the identity of their donors, as pretty much all nonprofits do, invade our electoral process. We saw between $400 and $500 million, almost $500 million, in undisclosed funding flood into the American political system in 2012. And that's just what we know about. We are confident that there is more that will emerge as time goes on. And as we begin the new year, I think the majority of people in New York State and the overwhelming majority of Americans would agree that what is referred to as dark money is really an unwelcome influence in our electoral process. And big secretive campaign expenditures have the potential to do even more damage in local elections. A lot of people focus on the issue of the post-Citizens United money in politics at the federal level. The worst harm that can be done, in my view, is at the local level. And we have local elections across New York State this year, here in Buffalo, in counties across the state, in the city of New York. We may have a referendum on the ballot. And our regulations are designed to ensure that at least in New York State, you have to disclose your identity and detail your expenditures if you're going to engage in political activity through a nonprofit. We're preempted from controlling what happens in federal elections, although we are certainly hoping to set up a system that is a model for what our federal counterparts may be able to do regarding federal elections. But we are very concerned and welcome your support for the effort to rally public support for the idea that we really have to end secretive political activity. Under New York's laws, I'm required to protect charitable assets and prevent the fraudulent and misleading solicitation of donors. And New York State, for better or worse, is a critical hub of fundraising. Lots of people come into New York State from all over America to raise money. The most recent statistics show that about $378 million was contributed by New Yorkers to campaigns and PACs in 2012. And one of the problems is that people, in addition to being solicited by candidates, are now being solicited by nonprofits, and it's impossible for donors in New York to know what they're giving money for. The information that's available is not just vague, it's often extremely misleading. I don't know which is the worst title of a group that showed up last year, but I'm not sure how I could tell the difference between the Commission on Hope, Growth, and Opportunity and the Citizens for Strength and Security Action Fund. They sound great, and there are people who might be induced to give money to them without understanding what their true purpose was. Our regulations are designed so that everyone knows who is contributing money and what the money is going for. Indeed, even in the Citizens United decision, Justice Kennedy, writing for the majority opinion, emphasized that the only key provision that was required to make the system he proposed work, unlimited spending, was full disclosure. that you had to know, the public has to know who's paying for the ad so you can judge what what a candidate is being influenced by. It also applies to referenda on the ballot. If we had a ballot referendum this fall, which we may, about casino gambling, the public has the right to know if a series of anti-gambling ads are being paid for by casino owners in neighboring states. That provides them with a context that's very different than it might otherwise be. So our proposals today are designed to end this practice in New York, to protect our donors, to protect the charitable form so that legitimate charities are not, don't suffer because people lose confidence in the charitable form. And we're here because we view this as very serious business. And while we're not required to hold hearings before issuing regulations, we have decided to hold 4 hearings. This is the 3rd. Proposed regulations are the result of careful work by attorneys in our office. Several of them are here with us today to listen, but we are taking your testimony very seriously. We've already heard some good ideas from the public. I think our folks did a very good job, but we believe that asking for advice is always a smart thing to do, and today's hearing is an important step. We look forward to you providing feedback. We also look forward to people submitting their comments in writing. We've received quite a few of those. We have a website, www.ag.ny.gov, and if you click on Charity Disclosure, you will find the regulations and can submit your comments. And I have to say that as this problem of money in politics, particularly dark money in politics, has emerged, I'm particularly gratified to see some of my colleagues in government have joined us here today. Senators Kennedy and O'Brien are important voices for reform, some of them in Gaberzak. Your presence here today speaks volumes because it's very important for the public to understand that this is not some gimmick that public officials are pushing for. Most public officials I know really are afraid of this concept of money with undisclosed donors in politics. They can actually set up, someone can actually donate money, set up a group that purports to be on your side, and no one will know what's going on, who they are, and you have no control over their expenditures. So in that spirit, I appreciate your presence. I know we've had a huge outpouring of input and support from good government groups, and I thank you also for being here. In a moment, I'll turn the floor over to Mike Russo, who is the attorney in charge of our Buffalo Regional Office, and he's going to begin the proceedings. But I want to close with the framework that led us to be here today. In my view, we have to have a 3-part strategy to address what I view as a real threat to America's electoral process. I do not agree with the U.S. Supreme Court's decision in Citizens United. I do not believe that the concept of money equaling speech is really consistent with our American traditions. I don't think the founders had in mind that a multi-billionaire would have 100,000 times or 1 million times the speech rights of an ordinary citizen. And we have to deal with this issue, in my view, on 3 separate fronts. First, there has to be a long-term strategy to address the unregulated flow of money. I do believe that Citizens United will be overturned. The decision was premised on the idea that unlimited spending would not create corruption or the appearance of corruption. I think we will have a record soon so that another Supreme Court will reverse this, and this will go the way of Plessy v. Ferguson. Until that happens, we have to insist on full transparency, and that's why we're here today. We cannot allow unlimited money to be spent by people who remain disclosed. You have to wonder why someone wants to hide the fact that they're supporting a particular candidate. And this is the interesting thing about the issue we're trying to address today. Everyone knows Sheldon Adelson gave Newt Gingrich a lot of money. You may not like that, or you may like that, but at least you know who he is and you can look him up. The idea of contributing $500 million of money and trying to hide your identity, for those of us who are concerned about both the operations of our charitable enterprises and our political system, it's like being a bank employee. When someone walks in wearing a mask, you gotta wonder what's going on. There's a reason for it, and we think with this disclosure, we'll be able to find out some of the reasons these folks are so anxious to hide their identity. Total transparency is essential. And finally, and this is an issue I know that is very much on the agenda in Albany this year, we have to have ways to mitigate the damage done by unlimited money in politics, and foremost among those is public financing of elections and a system that enables everyone to fairly compete. And I know that's something you're working on, and I commend your good work. But I really do appreciate your being here. We're working as fast as we can and hope to finalize the regulations sometime in March and have them in effect before this year's local elections take place all across the state of New York. We may not be able to stop this in federal elections yet, but we can say not in New York State. Our voters are entitled and our donors are entitled to know everything about the entities that are operating in our state, and I thank you for your supporting us getting this right and your support in us moving ahead on this important issue.